It's a quiet Tuesday night in a suburban American home. The dishes are done, the house is silent, and for the first time all day, there is absolutely nothing left on the to-do list. No emails to answer, no laundry to fold, no fires to put out. Most people would call this a win. They would sink into the plush cushions of the couch, let their shoulders drop from their ears, and finally just breathe. But for the person who grew up in a house where the air always felt heavy, this silence doesn't feel like peace. It feels like a trap. They find themselves pacing the kitchen floor, wiping down a counter that's already spotless, or scrolling through their phone with a thumb that won't stop moving. Their body is physically in a safe living room, but their mind is still standing guard at a front door that hasn't been touched in years. It's that strange, buzzing electricity under the skin, the feeling that if they actually let go and relax, something terrible will happen the moment they lower their guard. Have you ever felt that? That sense that being fine is just a countdown to the next disaster. It's a common scene, sitting in a beautiful park on a sunny day, but instead of enjoying the breeze, they are scanning the perimeter, checking the exits, and wondering why everyone else seems so dangerously relaxed. They carry a specific kind of exhaustion that sleep can't touch because their nervous system is still running a marathon while their body is trying to take a nap. They are the ones who feel a surge of adrenaline when the phone rings, even if it's just a friend calling to say hello. They are the ones who overanalyze the ... typing bubble in a text message, convinced that a storm is brewing in the silence between the characters. To the outside world, they look like the gold standard of productivity, the high achiever who never drops the ball. But if you look closer, you see the high-definition details of a system that is running red-hot. You see it in the way they clench their jaw while they drive, or how they constantly check their email on a Sunday afternoon, not out of passion, but out of a deep-seated fear of being caught off guard. They've become world-class experts at a job they never applied for, the job of the human weather vane, always checking which way the wind is blowing so they don't get caught in the storm. When we peel back the layers of this hyper-productivity and constant on-call energy, we find a piece of high-tech software designed for a very specific, dangerous mission. If you grow up in an environment that is unpredictable, maybe there was a parent with a short fuse, maybe there was a lot of shouting, or perhaps a heavy, suffocating silence that felt like a bomb about to go off, your brain does something truly incredible. It adapts. It builds a state-of-the-art alarm system. This system is designed to detect the slightest change in the vibe of the house. It learns that a certain way a door closes means danger. It learns that a specific tone of voice or the sound of footsteps on the stairs means hide or fix it fast. This isn't a defect. It's a brilliant survival strategy that kept that child safe when they had no other choice. The problem is that once the danger is gone, once that child grows up, moves out, and finds a stable job and a loving partner, the brain doesn't automatically get the memo. The hardware stays the same. It's like having a smoke detector that is so sensitive it goes off every time you make a piece of toast. The brain is still using war mode logic in a peace zone. This is what researchers often call toxic stress, where the body is flooded with cortisol and adrenaline for so long that it forgets how to turn the faucet off. They aren't anxious in the way people usually mean it. They are simply over-prepared for a world that they no longer live in. Does this feel a bit too familiar? Like you're constantly waiting for the other shoe to drop, even when you're standing in a room full of shoes. You might notice they have a hard time accepting compliments. When someone says, "Great job on that project," their internal alarm doesn't register praise. It registers a standard that must now be maintained at all costs to avoid future failure. They are terrified of being found out as someone who isn't actually as strong as they appear. They live in the shadow of their own resilience, haunted by the very strength that helped them survive. Every time they try to sit still, their brain interprets the lack of chaos as a sign that they've missed something. If nothing is wrong, the brain whispers, then I must not be looking hard enough. So they go back to the list, back to the scrolling, back to the pacing, because in their world, doing is the only thing that feels like safety. In American culture, we have a bad habit of romanticizing this kind of on-edge behavior. We call it the hustle, being a go-getter, or having high standards. But for the survivor, these are often just socially acceptable masks for an inability to be still. Think about the person who can't go on a vacation without checking their Slack every hour, or the person who feels a deep, gnawing guilt the moment they sit down to watch a movie on a Saturday afternoon. This isn't just about work ethic. It's about a fundamental belief that their value is tied to their utility. They think, if I am useful, I am safe. If I am perfect, I won't be rejected. This creates a life that looks successful on Instagram, but feels like a hollow ache on the inside. They might have the house with the white picket fence and the promotion they worked a decade for, yet they find themselves sitting in their car in the driveway for 20 minutes before going inside, just because they need a moment where no one is asking anything of them. They are experts at taking care of everyone else's needs, the kids, the boss, the partner, while their own internal engine is smoking from the friction of never being allowed to idle. We see this play out in how they handle conflict. For many, a small disagreement feels like a catastrophic ending. Their brain fast-forwards through the argument to the worst-case scenario: abandonment, total failure, being alone. To prevent this, they become the fawn. They turn into a social chameleon, shifting their personality, their opinions, and even their tone of voice to match whatever will keep the peace. They apologize for things they didn't do. They say sorry when someone else bumps into them in the grocery store. It's a reflex. It's a plea. It's the sound of a system trying to keep the peace at any cost. Because in their history, peace was never a given. It was something that had to be bought with their own self-erasure. They are so busy being who everyone else needs them to be that they've forgotten who they are when the room is empty. And that emptiness is the most frightening thing of all, because without someone to fix or a problem to solve, they don't know what they are for. The physical toll of this body armor is something that often goes unnoticed until the body starts to scream. If you watch this person move, you might notice their shoulders are almost always slightly hunched toward their ears, as if they are bracing for a literal blow. They might have chronic tension in their neck, or a jaw that clicks because they've been clenching it in their sleep for 20 years. This is the body's way of storing the data of their past. The brain might forget the specific arguments or the exact feeling of being ignored, but the fascia and the muscles remember everything. They are living in a suit of armor that is 3 sizes too small and made of lead. They wonder why they are always tired, even after 8 hours of sleep. The reason is simple. It takes a massive amount of caloric energy to keep an entire body in a defensive crouch for 16 hours a day. They aren't just living, they are holding themselves together, quite literally. This constant state of fight, flight, or freeze changes the chemistry of the blood. It affects digestion, the immune system, and the way the heart beats. They might find themselves struggling with the Sunday scaries starting as early as Friday evening. They might have a startle response that is dialed up to 10, where a loud noise or a sudden movement makes their heart jump into their throat. This isn't just being jumpy. It is the physical manifestation of a nervous system that is perpetually stuck in the on position. They might also experience what psychologists call emotional flashbacks. Unlike a visual flashback where you see a past event, an emotional flashback is a sudden tidal wave of feeling shame, terror, or helplessness that seems to come out of nowhere. One minute they are fine, and the next, a small criticism from a coworker makes them feel like a terrified 6-year-old again. The bridge between the past and the present is much shorter than they realize, and they are constantly walking back and forth across it without meaning to. There is a profound beauty, however, in the realization that this burden can be transformed. The very skills that make life difficult right now, the hyper-awareness, the empathy, the ability to read a room, are actually superpowers when they are no longer fueled by fear. When the hidden engine is tuned correctly, the person who endured a lot becomes the most compassionate leader, the most observant artist, and the most deeply connected partner. They have a depth of soul that others might never reach because they have had to navigate the darkest parts of the human experience. They aren't just survivors. They are people who have learned to build a fire in the middle of a storm. The meaningful truth is that healing isn't about becoming a normal person who never feels on edge. It's about becoming a person who knows how to be kind to their own nervous system. It's about recognizing that relaxing is a skill that has to be learned from scratch, like a new language. It's okay if sitting still feels like a marathon at first. It's okay if doing nothing feels productive adjacent. The goal isn't to erase the past, but to build a present where the past no longer gets to drive the car. When they finally learn to trust the silence, something magical happens. They realize that they don't have to earn their place on this earth through constant motion or perfect performance. They are allowed to just exist. They are allowed to be messy. And most importantly, they are allowed to be safe. If you see this in someone you love, or if you see it in the mirror, just know that the alarm system did its job. It got you here. It kept you alive. But now, the sun is out, the doors are locked, and it is finally, truly, okay to go to sleep. You don't have to stand guard anymore. The world is big enough to hold you, even when you aren't holding everything else together. You can put the shield down now. You've won the war, and the peace that follows isn't a trap, it's the home you've been building for yourself all along, one quiet breath at a time.